The camera jumps between his search and Vivian stepping into an elevator, pressing the button for the lobby. Just before the elevator doors close, there's a flicker of hesitation on her face, a subtle moment that speaks volumes without a single word. From here, the trailer becomes a montage of emotional punches. Edward standing in the rain outside Vivian's building, the streetlights turning the scene gold. Vivian in the back of a cab, looking out the window with tears she's trying to hide. Flashback of the necklace scene from the original film, now mirrored with Edward holding a new gift box in his hands. But will she ever see it? The music swells, joined by the slow building rhythm of a heartbeat. Just when it feels like it's about to burst, we hear Edward's voice soft, breaking, "You were never a chapter, Vivian. You were the whole story." The screen cuts to a final shot, Edward and Vivian standing across from each other on that iconic hotel balcony, the city stretching out behind them. It's unclear if this is real, imagined, or somewhere in between. The camera zooms in on their eyes, locking in that same electric connection from decades ago. The "Oh, Pretty Woman" theme begins to play, but this time it's stripped down. Just vocals and piano, almost like a farewell lullaby. The screen fades to black, and in bold letters appears, "Pretty Woman 2. Some fairy tales deserve one last chapter. Beat of silence." Then the release year, -2026, flickers onto the screen, sealing the promise of a love story reborn, the imagined Pretty Woman to 2026. Concept trailer doesn't stop its emotional pull with the balcony moment. Section 5 takes it a step further, leaving the audience tangled in unanswered questions and raw anticipation. This is where the concept plants its most powerful hooks, teasing a deeper, richer story that goes beyond simple romance. It begins in near silence. The screen fades in on a dimly lit cafe in the early morning, long after the city has gone quiet. Vivian sits alone at a corner table, her red dress traded for a soft sweater, her hair slightly tousled, as if she hasn't slept. A steaming cup of coffee sits untouched in front of her. Outside, the rain is just starting to fall, drops streaking the glass beside her. The quiet is broken only by the soft hum of a jazz song in the background, a nod to the old Hollywood elegance of the first film, then a subtle shift. A bell rings above the cafe door. The camera doesn't show the person entering. Instead, it lingers on Vivian's face as she looks up. Her expression is unreadable at first, a mixture of surprise, hesitation, and something unspoken. Only when we cut to a close-up of Edward stepping forward, slightly out of breath, do we realize this is the reunion moment fans have been waiting for. But it's still not clear how it will play out. The trailer jumps between small but charged exchanges, Edward reaching into his coat and placing something on the table, a hotel keycard from decades ago. Still tucked inside a worn leather holder, Vivian picks it up, running her fingers over it as if it's both a relic and a reminder. No words are exchanged in this moment, but their eyes say everything. From here, the concept teases bigger narrative threads. We catch glimpses of Vivian and Edward working together on a charity event, Vivian standing at a podium while Edward watches from the crowd. There's a shot of Vivian laughing with her daughter, who now looks at Edward with slightly softened eyes, hinting at a slow shift in her opinion. But then the mood darkens again, with a cut to Edward in a tense meeting with the same rival businessman from earlier, the one who might have deeper ties to Vivian than Edward realizes. The rival's line lands like a dagger. She doesn't need saving this time. She needs someone who won't walk away. The pace slows again for one final visual beat before the trailer's end. Edward and Vivian stand together on a quiet pier at sunset, the waves lapping gently below. Vivian's voice breaks the silence. "We can't rewrite the past." Edward's reply is calm, almost a whisper. "No, but we can finish the story." Screen fades to black once more, the slowed-down version of "Oh, Pretty Woman" echoing over the final title card. This time, the words appear in gold. Coming 2026. One last chapter. This section leaves the audience torn between hope and uncertainty. Exactly the kind of emotional cliffhanger that keeps a love story alive in the imagination long after. The screen goes dark. Asterisk, it opens with a sequence that almost feels like an Easter egg hunt. We see a quick shot of Vivian's walk-in closet. The camera glides past rows of elegant dresses, before pausing for less than a second on a familiar sight. The very red gown she wore to the opera all those years ago, hanging carefully at the back. It's a blink-and-doom-sit moment, but it sets the tone for the rest of the montage. Next comes a scene that lasts only 2 seconds in the imagined trailer. Edward stepping into a luxury hotel lobby, his gaze drawn toward the elevator bank. For fans who remember, this is the same style of elevator from the first movie's final scene, a deliberate nod to where their story began. The framing is identical, almost like the film is telling us their journey has come full circle. We also get a beautifully symbolic insert shot. Vivian's daughter walking along a crowded sidewalk, glancing into a jewelry store window. Inside, a gold necklace rests in a velvet box. Not the extravagant piece from the first film, but a simpler, more timeless design. The reflection of Edward passing behind her in the glass is fleeting, suggesting his presence in her life is still tentative. But growing, the rival businessman's role also gets a hint of depth in this section. In one shot, he's seated at a small cafe, reading a vintage newspaper clipping featuring a much younger Edward. His expression is thoughtful, almost conflicted, suggesting his connection to the central couple is more personal than business rivalry alone. Could he have been part of their past in ways neither of them realize yet? Visually, this section leans into soft golden lighting, lens flares, slow camera pans, the kind of filmmaking that makes every detail feel like a memory you've lived. Over it all, the slowed piano version of "Oh, Pretty Woman" returns, layered with faint strings that swell and fade at just the right moments. The final beat of this section is one of the most cryptic. Vivian is shown placing an old hotel key on a mantel beside a framed photograph of her younger self with Edward. She hesitates, then removes the picture from the frame and tucks it into her bag. The shot ends before we see where she's going, but the implication is clear. The past is no longer something she's hiding from. By the time this section fades out, the audience is left with the sense that Pretty Woman 2, even in concept form, isn't just revisiting an old romance for nostalgia's sake. It's about closure, growth, and the quiet power of unfinished stories finding their way to an ending. The kind of ending fans will argue about for months, maybe years, after the credits roll. Asterisk the 7th and final section of the imagined Pretty Woman to 2026. Concept trailer is where everything comes together, not in a neat, predictable bow, but in a way that feels raw, earned, and hauntingly beautiful. This is the emotional send-off that lingers in your mind long after the screen goes black. It begins with a sweeping aerial shot of Los Angeles at dawn. The city bathed in soft gold light. The streets are quiet, almost dreamlike. Verse. Voice begins, low and steady. "I thought our story ended the day I let you go. Turns out it was just waiting for me to find the courage to start again." His words float over the image of Vivian walking along the pier, the ocean stretching endlessly beside her. The trailer then cuts to the heart of the climax, Edward arriving at the same opera house where their most magical night once unfolded. Inside, the seats are empty except for one figure, Vivian. Sitting alone in the front row, her gaze fixed on the empty stage. He walks down the aisle slowly, every step echoing in the stillness. She turns toward him, and for a long moment, they simply look at each other. No smiles, no dramatic gestures, just the quiet recognition that comes when two people finally see each other without the weight of the past. Then, in a perfect callback, Edward lifts a small box from his coat pocket and flips it open inside. Is not jewelry this time, but the faded opera ticket stub from that night decades ago. Vivian's breath catches, and she whispers, "You kept it?" Edward nods. "I kept everything." The montage that follows is a masterclass in emotional pacing, quick flashes of moments we've seen in the trailer, now reframed. The rooftop conversation, the cafe meeting, the daughter's guarded stares, the rival's cryptic warnings. But now they're intertwined with new images. Vivian resting her head briefly on Edward's shoulder during a rainy walk. Edward laughing at something off camera, the two of them dancing slowly in an empty ballroom, lit only by string lights. The music swells into its full orchestral version of "Oh, Pretty Woman, but it's softer, more mature, as if the song itself has grown up with them. And then comes the shot that will define the trailer. Edward and Vivian on the hotel balcony. Once more, but this time, she's the one pulling him toward her. The camera holds on their embrace just long enough for the audience to believe in it again, as the screen begins to fade to black. One final line plays over the quiet fade-out, Vivian's voice, gentle but certain. Some fairy tales don't end. They just wait for the right time to begin again. The words Pretty Woman 2 coming 2026 appear in bold gold letters, the music dropping into a single sustained note before silence.